Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So as you can see from the title down below, today I will be talking about 19 things I've learned over the 19 years that I've lived on this earth, or over this last year. So in line with my birthday, I just wanted to release a video talking about my struggles and everything I've learned because of those struggles throughout the 19 years, or even just this past year. So I just wanted to give you guys like a little tip, or just, you know, and explain my journey of self-love and self-acceptance. So yeah, but of course, before we get started, don't forget to subscribe down below if you haven't already. Click that notification bell so you get notified every time I post a video, and of course, give this video a thumbs up. So I'll just go through everything I've learned and explain a little bit about why I learned them, and, you know, just some background about it. Okay, so first thing is obviously the most obvious one out of everything. I've genuinely learned to love myself more and just to, you know, take care of myself. So I was very insecure growing up, especially in my early teenage years. Honestly, even up to like a year ago or 2 years ago, I was still very insecure. So I have this thing on my eye, as you can see. So it's like a white patch, and it's basically just vitiligo, and it's from my eyebrow to my eyelid, actually up to my eyelashes even. And I got really insecure about that the first time it appeared. I'm pretty sure it appeared like in year 8. And I remember feeling so insecure about it, and I tried to cover it up. I tried to go to a dermatologist, like, to tell them, like, how can I get rid of this, blah blah blah. But then over the past few years, I've honestly learned to love it and accept it. I actually really like it now. I don't try to cover it up with makeup anymore. Like, sometimes it's not as obvious because I put on foundation, but I don't put concealer on it or anything because I try not to cover it up, since I love it now, and to me it's part of what makes me unique, and it's part of what makes me me. So you should really, like, if you have any insecurities or whatever, I suggest you really try to embrace it and learn to love yourself. And I know that's hard, trust me. Like, I've gone through like so many stages of not loving myself, from acne or my body or whatever. I know it's really hard, but once you do embrace your flaws, then trust me, it's like a huge weight lifted up your shoulder because you just love yourself. And when I say take care of yourself more, it's just that know when you're stressed. So, you know, do those little things that make you happy. So for me, I'd get my hair done, get my nails done, or anything else. So just, you know, take care of yourself. Don't stress yourself out too much. Second is depend on yourself. So to be honest, the first person you should always depend on about anything is yourself, because you're, you know, like, who else would be there for you more than yourself? Obviously it's just you. So try to really depend on yourself and not depend too much on other people, because sometimes people leave, and when they leave, then what are you gonna do? So at least you have like this thing of depending on yourself. So if they do leave, then at least you know you can depend on yourself and you can be okay without them. Moving on to my third thing is depend on your family. So I've learned this a lot this last year, because to be honest, I didn't really like realize how big an impact my family made in like making me feel good, or making me feel better about life in general, because they were always just around me. Like, literally I would walk a few feet and my parents are there, or my brother's there. But being away from home now made me realize how much my family actually impacted why I was happy. So, you know, whenever I had problems, I could literally just go to my parents' room and hug my mom or hug my dad and all that, and I'd immediately feel better. But now it's like I don't really have anyone, like, I don't have my parents here, so I can't just easily go to them because they're literally 4,000 miles away from me. So you know, whenever I had problems with school or just personal life in general, they would always be the first people that I call and the first people that I'd ask advice from, because besides myself, I know that I can always depend on my family. Like, no matter what happens, I know that my family is always going to be there for me. So I hope you guys could also depend on your family as well. The fourth thing is never settle for less, or don't lower your standards. So this comes in a sense of, like, let's say for school, for your grades, or for people in general. So this past year, I found uni to be a bit more difficult just because I didn't have, you know, my friends. So I ended up, at the start of uni, I ended up having this mentality of, oh, as long as I pass, as long as I pass. And to anyone who knows me, they know that I'm not that type of person. They know I'm like the person who's like A+, A+, A+. And if it's not an A+, I'd literally like break down. But like at the start of the year, since I literally had no motivation to do anything whatsoever, I just kept settling for less. So I was like, I'll settle for a B+, I'll settle for a B- or something like that. But at mid to end of this year, I learned to pick myself back up again and not settle for less, because especially if you know that you can do better. So I knew that I can do better than a B, so obviously I strived harder again, and I ended up doing well in my studies. And in a sense of people, like, don't lower your standards, know your standards. And just because you meet someone, or just because you want to be in a relationship, don't lower your standards for that person. Like, set your standards high, because if you don't, then in the end you're just gonna disappoint yourself and it's just not gonna work out. Especially if, you know, if you don't like that person for who they are, or like because you just lowered your standards for them or something. So always keep your standards high, and if you want to be with someone, then wait for that person who will reach your standards, because trust me, it'll be worth it if you actually meet someone who meets those standards. Don't beg anyone to stay in your life. So I learned this the hard way, but if people don't want to be in your life, then they will always make excuses to leave. They'll always come up with a new excuse to leave you, even if you like solve the first excuse. So let's say they bring up this one thing and they want to leave because of this one thing. If you find the solution for that, they'll always make up another problem or another reason to leave. So don't beg those type of people to stay in your life, because they don't want to be in your life. So why beg someone to stay in your life when they don't even want to be in your life? You're always just gonna feel like you're not enough, and you're always just gonna keep begging them to stay if they do like stay, but they'll always try to make up reasons to leave, and in the end you're gonna be at the lost here, and you're gonna be defeated and all that. You're gonna be the one who ends up hurt, and yeah, you won't win. Because if someone wants to leave, then they'll make up excuses to leave. But if someone wants to stay, then despite everything, they will stay. So just don't, this connects to the other one, don't lower your standards and beg someone to stay. Learned that the hard way. Sixth thing, it's okay to fail. So as I said, like, I didn't really take my uni seriously at the start of the year, and I actually failed one of my subjects, and damn, that hurt me so much, because I've never ever failed before. Like, ask anyone, ask my parents, I've never even gotten like a grade lower than an A- in the past like 2-3 years. So when I failed, I was like hysterical. I was crying so much. I was just like all over the place. But it's not the end of the world. If you fail, then at least you learn a lesson from it. You get right back up and you try your best to not fail again. Use that failure as a motivation to do better next time and to not fail the same thing again. So don't think of failure as the ending or as the end of your world. Make it, like, think of it as a bump in the road. So if you fail, then that's totally fine, but use it to drive you. Use it as motivation to do better. So don't think of failure as 100% bad thing. Let's say it's a 50-50 thing. Next thing is, it's okay to cry and be hurt. So usually whenever I'd get hurt or I'd want to cry, I would repress it and like keep it in. I wouldn't cry, and one day I would just explode, and it's like this whole mental breakdown and all that. So I learned to just be able to cry when I needed to, or let myself feel the hurt, because if I don't let myself feel the hurt, then I won't be able to move on from that hurt. Or if I don't let myself cry, then one day I would just explode, and it would be way worse than if I cried like 2 to 3 times instead of that one big one. So it's okay to cry. Don't let anyone tell you that it's not okay to cry, because it's your mental health like that you should be thinking about. And if sometimes just crying and releasing everything already makes you feel better. Like I've learned that especially this past year, especially these past few like weeks, that once I cry, all that emotions get released, and I do end up feeling better after. 8th thing is, it's okay to change your mind. So I actually switched my course from psychology to arts and business. So honestly, it's okay to change your mind. I thought it wasn't. I was so scared to change my course because I thought it meant that I'd failed or all that negative stuff. But it's okay, because I'd rather change and be happy in my new thing, or like the new course, rather than stay in that old course and be miserable and just not function. Because like that course was basically just messing with my mental health already, and at least when I transferred, I was happier and I actually did better in my classes and all that. So it's okay to change your mind about those things. So if you're planning to do something in your life and you think that it's not the best for you anymore, then it's okay to change. As long as you're not hurting anyone, as long as you think it's what's the best for you, then do it. It's totally normal, it's totally fine. The next thing is, this is gonna sound so cliche, but everything happens for a reason. And hear me out. Every time any one of my friends or my mom told me that, oh yeah, everything happens for a reason, God is planning this and that, like you're experiencing this because God has something better for you, this happened for a reason, blah blah blah, I would get so annoyed, because I'd be like, what? Like, no, like these don't just happen because of like a better thing's gonna come. Like I was so negative, and I honestly genuinely didn't believe that things happen for a reason. But this whole year, honestly, with the whole pandemic and all the things that happened in my personal life, I realized that things do happen for a reason, and that maybe God gave you this hardship because he's planning to give you something better. My mom actually told me this a few days ago. You have your hands full, and sometimes God would do something to make you let go of those things that you're holding on, so he can put something better in your hands. Because if you're just holding on to something, then how can God add this thing that makes your life better? So sometimes he just does those things to let you go of something, because he's gonna put something better in your hands. So yeah, I mean, I'm still skeptical that things happen for a reason, but I am believing it more, especially with everything that's happened. The next thing is, I've obviously learned to be more independent, because obviously I don't have my family and my friends here, so I've learned to do a lot of things like by myself or on my own. So like the small things, like doing like my laundry or whatever, learn how to do it myself, or just taking public transport, or dealing with certain problems by myself, because I don't have my friends here, I don't have my family here. The next thing is relating to that. I've also learned how to be stronger. So, oh gosh, literally this, like 2020, when I was 18, my mental health was probably just like at the worst it ever was because of things that happened with like my uni life, things that happened in my personal life, and just the whole pandemic and just being stuck at home and not being able to go out just made everything 10 times worse. So I would literally just cry myself to sleep some nights or just have these really dark thoughts because my mental health was just so bad. But all these things made me a stronger person. I can genuinely say that I am stronger now than 18-year-old Monica or 17-year-old Monica because of everything that I experienced this past year, or even just a collection of everything I've experienced my whole 19 years. Yeah. Next thing I've learned is, again, connecting to the last one, don't ignore your mental health and listen to your body. So I've had the mistake of just ignoring all of these bad thoughts or dark thoughts in my head, and it would just slowly creep up on me and it would affect me physically. So there were days that I just didn't want to eat because my mental health was really bad, or I'd overeat because I was just really upset or something. But once I learned how to listen to myself and listen to my body and how I was feeling or whatever I was thinking, then I got to handle these emotions and situations better, and it didn't affect me as much compared to if I ignored it. So yeah, learn how to listen to what your mind is telling you. Like listen and adapt to your, mental health. When your mental health isn't okay, it's really hard to function physically. So just learn how to listen to yourself so it doesn't affect the rest of your body, or it doesn't affect your routine or your daily life. Next thing is, I've learned that people and situations change, and sometimes it doesn't even happen gradually, sometimes it happens in a snap. So people would act a certain way one day and then the next day they'd be completely different, or they'd act completely they'd act like the opposite way of how they acted the last day. So I've learned that people do change and situations change in an instant. One day a person can be saying one thing and then the next they just do a complete 180. So yeah, I've learned that the hard way, and sometimes people don't change for the better, sometimes it's for the worse, but you also have to learn to let those people go, especially if it's not good for your mental well-being or just well-being in general. Yeah. Next thing is very important. Kids, focus on your studies. I can't express that enough. My parents always told me that I always had to focus on my studies, so just in case everything else fails, at least I had my studies to fall back on. And that's really true, because despite everything, I know that once I graduate, at least I'll have like a degree to fall back on or something like that, or just knowledge in general. So focus on your studies and learn how to also be, like street smart and not just book smart, because it'll really help you in life. Next thing is, don't change yourself for other people. So this kind of relates to the earlier one of don't lower your standards. So if someone doesn't like you for who you are, doesn't like you for you, then leave. Like, go out that door and just never come back. Don't ever change yourself too much for someone just to make them like you. It's okay to change yourself a little bit or adjust to fit that person, but if they're asking you to completely just change yourself, then no. You deserve someone who won't ask you to completely change your identity for them. Know your self-worth, and you are good enough. So this was honestly one of my biggest struggles, just knowing my worth in general, because I always had such a negative mentality or mindset that I was never good enough for anyone. I was never good enough for whatever, and that I never really knew my self-worth, and I always had to adjust and change myself for other people because I never thought that I was good enough for them. I mean, it's still like a progress, you know. It's a very slow progress. I'm still trying to know my self-worth and know that I'm good enough. Sometimes I'd still have these fallbacks of me saying like, oh, I'm not good enough and all that, but I'm slowly learning, I'm slowly getting there, and I'm trying to just appreciate myself for who I am. And I know that I am good enough, especially if I put my heart and soul into something, or if I try my best, then I know that I am good enough. And I'm trying to not let other people tell me otherwise, or, you know, I try not to let their opinions matter to me too much. Next thing is strive to be better. Yeah, I feel like this is such a cliche, but always strive to be a better version of you. Strive to be a better person than you were yesterday. And sometimes that's hard, especially with everything and if you're going through something, but always just try to be better than who you were yesterday. And that's what I've learned and what I'm still trying to put into practice until now. So yeah. Next thing is take constructive criticism. So as I said, strive to be better, and for you to be better, you have to be able to accept constructive criticism from other people. If people try to tell you something, and if you know that they're coming from a caring or loving place, then don't be offended by it. Try to take it and implement it so you could be better. Because if those people are actually just giving you criticism because they care about you, then it's not to try to pull you down or rip you apart. It's actually just because they want you to be better or do better. And lastly, the 19th thing I've learned is to just be myself, or just be you. I know it's hard, especially with social media nowadays. They're always telling you to be someone else, or be this certain type of person, or be this celebrity to be good enough. But I've learned to just be myself and love myself for who I am, and not take anybody's opinions or not take anybody's attacks to bring me down. I am just being myself, and if you don't like that, then I will happily show you the door, because I am happy with myself, and I will continue to try and be happy with myself and just be me despite what the entire world thinks. And I hope you guys develop that same mentality too, because once you do, then trust me, you will feel so much better. So yeah, that's it for the 19 things I've learned this past year, or what I've learned throughout the 19 years that I've been alive. I hope you guys take into consideration some of the things I've said. I hope some of these things inspire you to do the same, because I only want the best for you guys, and I'm just trying to give you what I've learned, so maybe you could also learn it as well. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Again, don't forget to subscribe down below if you haven't already. Click that notification bell to get notified every time I post a video, and of course, give this video a thumbs up. See you guys next week. Bye!